I've made over 500 Conan videos since 2019, most of them being build videos. However, it's only over the past year or so that I've begun to build some base plates like this. I often get questions asking why, and today I'm going to tell you why I do it and why I think you should too. So, let's begin. Like most people, I started off using foundations. I then moved to fence foundations, which are a bit better. However, I truly believe that the ceilings and pillars are the optimal way to construct your base plate. Why? PAEF. Planning, aesthetics, ease of use and flexibility. If you're considering joining the pillar and ceiling crew, PAEF gives you all the reasons you need. How does it actually manifest differently from using foundations or fence foundations? Well, let's find out. One thing a lot of people struggle with, myself included, is planning. Even if you find it easy to build from your mind, it can be quite difficult to plan out and get the proper scale of each room, and issues can arise that could have been avoided with proper planning. Pillars and ceilings help massively with that. Using this method, it's easier to visualise the size and layout of every room in the build. You can even alternate ceiling tiles and use temporary tiles to plan out corridors, staircase placement, porches and other features in your build. This reduces mistakes or redesigns and helps you develop a better natural sense of the scale of different elements inside whatever you're building. See this? That gap right there. I hate that gap. I live every moment in searing anger knowing that gap exists. That sounds like hyperbole, it kind of is, but this really does annoy me. It's the primary reason I stopped using regular foundations for the most part, and moved to fence foundations initially. Fence foundations are alright, they flush the gap, but they don't always look the part. Pillar and ceiling base plates fix this issue entirely. Once you've built your base plate, you can whack some walls underneath the ceilings to flush the gap. Most importantly though, you can make pretty much any aesthetic choice you wish. You can match the walls to the rest of the build, contrast or complement it with something different. After a recent patch, you can also snap fence foundations below ceilings too, so this method just gives the utmost flexibility. Additionally, with a base plate made from pillars and ceilings, you can use various tricks to make your build look better, including the corner pillar trick and the covered door frames trick too. Using pillars and ceilings opens up so many aesthetic opportunities that it really puts foundations and fence foundations to shame. If you're using foundations, it's fairly easy to slap them down, so why is fiddling about with pillars and ceilings easier? Well, I'd say it's only slightly more difficult than regular foundations, but if you're a fence foundation connoisseur like I was, then this method is much easier. Fence foundations, they're pretty straightforward, unless you dare to include the dreaded wedge pieces. As soon as you do that, you've just created a ton of work for yourself. Fence foundations do not snap at 45-degree angles, so you have to build a base plate of foundations, snap fence foundations onto the side, and then remove the interior foundations. Let's be frank, we ain't got time to mess around doing that, and if you're doing a big build, it becomes a big task. Pillars and ceilings make this so much easier. No ugly gaps from foundations, better aesthetics, and it's easier to include wedge pieces. As I mentioned in the last section, you can snap walls or fence foundations beneath the ceilings, making life a whole lot easier. Finally, flexibility. Have you ever been halfway through a build and wanted to include something? I've done this before with the pillar trick. I've been building something and decided, corner pillars would work really nice on this. I'd then try to do it and immediately create tons more work for myself, as you can't just place pillars inside regular or fence foundations. I then have to remove those pieces, place the corner pillars and replace the missing pieces alongside any pieces that relied on their stability. This process often leaves ugly artifacts of the adjustments too. With the pillar and ceiling setup, that worry is gone. If I decide I want corner pillars halfway through the build, I'll still have to remove the walls in the corners to run the pillars down into the ground, but by having the base plate of your build supported by pillars rather than anchored firmly into the ground by foundations, it's much easier to make adjustments that affect the underside and exterior face of your base. Additionally, it's just more flexible in general. As I've covered already, you can plan ahead easily, add aesthetic pieces with ease, and it's far simpler to use than fence foundations. Pillar and ceiling base plates are incredibly flexible, even if you decide to try something halfway through the build. And that right there are the 4 reasons you should switch to pillar and ceiling base plates. There is of course the detriment of stability sometimes being an issue, but pillar and ceiling layouts are more of a crash course in learning how stability works, which is an important skill to know. Failing that, of course, you can just spam pillars underneath your ceilings to get 100 stability across the board, so there is an option for everyone. If you're still unsure, give it a try for a build or two. It felt weird the first few times I used this method, but I've come around to it, and now I'm of the firm opinion that this is the superior way to build your base plates. If you have converted to this method, do you find it easier? Let me know. For those that ask why I do this, hopefully this video answers your question better than just a regular old comment reply. Thank you for watching, and of course a massive thanks to our wonderful esteemed coffee cultists for continuing to support the channel over on Patreon. Again, thank you for watching, take care, and I'll see you soon.